action anime fans. We're still halfway through, and for those of you who've been keeping track, we already had a plethora of exciting shows to enjoy. That's even if we discount sequels of popular franchises that have carried the torch from the previous decade's hard hitters. I know it may be hard to know where to start, so that's what today's list looks to do. I'll be sharing what I think are the 10 best action anime for you to watch. Let's begin the list. Mission Yozakura Family is what I'll be starting this list with. Given the whole setup of a family of secret agents living double lives in school, it's very easy to fall into the trap of comparing this anime to the ever-popular Spy Family. On the other hand, Mission Yozakura Family takes that marginally similar setup in a different direction, opting to go for more chaos and action, as opposed to the more heartfelt slice-of-life-ish moments. I mean, it's not a bad thing either, and it sets up a nice, nifty identity for the Yozakura family, with it being done in the vein of a more typical shonen action series. It's an action comedy that I feel like has gone under the radar a bit for how entertaining it can become at times. Unhinged, chaotic and such are apt descriptions of what it looks to do, but underneath the funny and hype moments are still some dramatic segments that help the audience settle in and relate with the characters. If you're a 20-something-year-old and remember Hitman Reborn, that's more of what you're going to have to expect with this anime. Witch and the Beast is up next at number 9. If you prefer something that has more of an edge, however, Witch and the Beast may be to your liking. A mystery action series aimed at a slightly older demographic, complete with a darker atmosphere and a good amount of magical fighting. The Witch and the Beast is an anime that thrives on its character dynamics, starting with our main duo and soon extending to the other characters who turn out to be more complex than what you'd expect from an action-heavy series. All of that serves to complement the genuinely gripping story with arcs that don't overstay their welcome. The Witch and the Beast isn't something meant for mainstream attention. It's eerie, full of intrigue, and didn't have any of the hype moments that would push a lot of shows into becoming overnight blockbusters. But if you're up for a more mature approach in a compelling world, it's definitely worth a shot. At 8, here's Unwanted, Undead Adventurer. After giving the key visual and the premise a glance, one might immediately peg Unwanted Undead Adventurer as another one of those prove-them-wrong anime. You know, the power fantasy that starts off with the protagonist falling and coming back as something beyond broken, set to go on an adventure to bring the world to its knees. Unwanted Undead Adventurer flips things around, however, by deciding to go on a more, reflective approach. Yes, there's still the edgy-looking protagonist looking to become strong as a plot point, but the anime is a tad slower and more monologue-heavy. It seeks to build the world at what people have called a deliberate pace, and it dwells more on the implications of becoming a skeleton, giving the audience chances to digest how it really feels. It's definitely something more akin to a slice of life, and the more chill approach to doing things might throw people off a little bit. When the action parts come up, though, they're still good, however, so this could be a good change of pace for people very into fantasy action anime. At number 7, it's the wrong way to use healing magic. It's the beginning of 2024. Things are looking up with some big hitters coming our way. A lot of shows have hype either by being sequels or getting carried by word of mouth, with some shows seemingly coming out of nowhere by embracing their key points, like the degeneracy for gushing over magical girls. Then there's this. Not gonna lie, I don't blame you for overlooking the wrong way to use healing magic by brushing it off as yet another isekai when the season rolled around. But when the dust has settled, I'd say that this anime has been a worthwhile watch, showing that there are strengths in a premise that's generic. Born on, I've got to give some props to how the show doesn't aim to hook you in with a shock factor or anything like that. It's also not a parody and plays the isekai part straight. Instead, it does draw you in with a more deliberate pacing, getting you acquainted with the world and the characters, and making you think of the possible ways things can go. The slow pacing ended up being a detriment at times, especially on the character development side, but I can see the point the anime team's trying to get at here. It's a good alternate approach to the isekai wave we've come to see recently that either leans heavily into parodic elements or goes really deep with the action, shock factor, and power fantasy. It's comfortably somewhere in between and is for fans of people who prefer a slower paced isekai. An archdemon's dilemma finds itself right before the halfway mark. And we're back to the bait and switch anime. Right off the bat, an archdemon's dilemma injects an idea into the viewer, an assumption of what it could be like. Demon Lord with a bid to be the strongest, taking on a slave girl as his most trusted partner in this us against the world story. And true, there are elements of that at play, but while Undead Adventurer gave us a detour by instead becoming a more reflective take on the whole transformed into a skeleton subgenre, Archdemon's Dilemma does that by making unaware audiences watch possibly one of the sweetest romances you can get out of the shows with this kind of backdrop. Not to say there's no action or flexing or the sort, there is loads of it in fact. What truly sets this series apart from its kin is its surprising focus on a budding relationship between our main duo, both of whom are awkward and charming in their own right. People have compared it to something like Gomi-san, and to have that kind of comparison in an isekai series with magic and slavery is hilarious in its own right, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it. This is one underrated treat for romance lovers out there. Now, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, but not before asking you for a like if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. Make sure you've turned on the notification bell to be updated by all my latest